Something I talk about a lot and has previously been revealed, what we're about to read actually came out in May, and has already been talked about. What I kind of want to circle back to it, because while there's so much going on all the time and we always have plenty of, wild right-wingers to respond to, and what's the most recent thing with the Trump investigation and Biden's political wins and all of these things, this is an important topic, so I just want to throw it in the show today. And that is the fact that billionaires, the most wealthy members of our society, are not paying even close to the same effective tax rate as you and I, right? They make so much more money. Can't even conceive of how much money they make, and they pay a much lower effective tax rate. Now, this isn't illegal. This is them using the tax law to their advantage. But nonetheless, clearly our system is broken if that's the case. And so the reason I want to focus on this is so often I talk with people and I lay out kind of what does it mean to be a progressive? What do I believe in as someone who considers myself progressive? And the response I get from a lot of people is, well, gosh, the things you're saying sound real nice, and you articulate them in a way that I think, makes sense, except how are we going to pay for all of that? How are we going to pay for X, Y, or Z? And one of the things I say is, how people on the left often say, tax the rich, tax the rich. And you all, whoever I'm speaking to, often they're center or center right, think that that's kind of overdoing it, and, the rich already pay tons in taxes and whatever. Well, what I want you to know, again, I'm still speaking as if I was speaking to this hypothetical person I'm talking about, or people I have talked to. What I want you to know is that they're not, though, the top. Now, someone who makes like a really good salary is having to give a lot of that away because they just make a normal income and they pay their taxes, whatever, a doctor or something. But when you get up to the very tip top of our economic ladder, they're not paying much into our system as far as an effective tax rate goes. So we're going to read about it in just a second here. But I just really want y'all to get clear, all of my audience, about this phenomenon so that you can articulate as well to all of the people in your lives who ask you that same question. And so what I always say is actually, eventually we might also have to raise the tax rate on the wealthiest Americans, but right now we don't even have to raise the rates. Nah, we are missing so much money out of these people that we could get without even raising the tax rate 1%. What we would have to do that would get us tons of money is just changing our tax system. Now, I know some people hear that and go, that's what politicians have been saying forever, and we're still in this place. Well, that's because politicians often say that as a cop-out to raising the rate, and then don't actually change the tax system, right? If we actually change the tax system, where if it says that Elon Musk is supposed to pay 30%, 40, whatever it is, he actually pays that, for example, or Bezos, or many of these other billionaires, but they don't. Again, they're using our legal process. They're not breaking the law, but we're not getting anywhere close to the amount of money in taxes out of them that I think we should. That at least, how about they pay the same effective tax rate as many working Americans? That's fair. And so I think it's such an easy and agreeable argument to make, to say, hey, right, left, and center, can we all get on board with changing our tax system and just pretty much taking out all of the loophole options, or doing kind of a universal minimum for people above a certain kind of wealth threshold where you have to pay this amount no matter how you choose to use these loopholes. You just have to, kind of what they did with the minimum corporate tax rate in the recent Inflation Reduction Act that the Democrats passed. Hooray. Good for that. And so everyone should get on board with the idea that someone making millions or billions per year in wealth growth should have to actually pay more into our system than 2, 3, 4%. So here is from Truth Out. You may have seen this before. This is an analysis that was done and got released that just kind of blew the top off of all of this somewhat recently. So we're going to read about it a little bit. A new analysis of leaked Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS documents, shows that some of the U.S.'s wealthiest people have paid a disproportionately low federal income tax rate in recent years. In an analysis released Thursday, Americans for Tax Fairness found that in relation to their wealth, 26 of the nation's richest billionaires paid an average effective federal income tax rate of just 4.8% between 2013 and 2018. Collectively, they paid just $24 billion in taxes. I mean, $24 billion sounds like a lot, but as it continues on, a minuscule amount compared to an immense growth of $500 billion in their wealth. Really? We get $24 billion into our system out of $500 billion of wealth growth over those 6 years. The report demonstrates the vast disparities between the tax code for the rich and for regular Americans. Billionaires are able to dodge taxes on a large portion of their wealth due to tax laws allowing them to accrue wealth largely tax-free through investments and other sources. The taxes they did pay are on their relatively low taxable incomes, where Americans for Tax Fairness calculates, in this case, to be $132.2 billion, or only about a fourth of their wealth gains. So I encourage you, I'll put the link to this article in the description for you to read more about it. Obviously for this format, just reading that entire thing might get kind of boring, but the point is, while I understand why this has happened, I'm not even saying this is the most unbelievable outcome of the tax system that we have. Of course, you would try to pay as little taxes as possible if you have the means. And because it's kind of this thing of you're taxing their income, but then they can put their money in places where they're not really taking that big of an income. Bezos actually doesn't have a very large income. Instead it's through all of these other means, whether that's investments, or something else. And so we have to come up with a way to get the proper amount of wealth extracted so that we can pay for all of these things that we talk about without actually being that unfair, quote unquote unfair, to the people at the top of the economic ladder. And so that's something I think everyone can get on board with. Hey, let's figure out a way, and it can be done because it's done other places and it has been done here before, to get the proper amount of taxes from the most wealthy billionaires. I'm not even talking about raising the rate right now, because right now on paper, these people are supposed to be paying much higher taxes. But when it's all said and done, they just pay 4 point whatever. Or many of them even less. Some of the examples they gave were 1% effective tax rate for some of these billionaires. And so if we can change the way that we tax them to more effectively get that wealth where they still have more money than they could ever possibly spend in their life, but we're able to properly fund very important programs to make a good, healthy society that they get to benefit from, they get to live in, they get to, benefit from that better, more healthy functioning society, then we should do so. And no matter what your political ideologies are, unless you're just obsessed with billionaires having as much money as possible, then I think we can all agree on that.